The subject of my talk is tantalizingly simple. So I want to layer it a little bit. Of course, there will be stories. The Mahabharata is full of stories. As somebody described it, it's an ocean of stories. I'm going to pick three episodes from the Mahabharata. One to do with a character, very minor character, who hardly anybody remembers. And the other two from a very major character. And then at the end, I'm going to try and round up and draw out some lessons, mostly to do with leadership, that these stories perhaps tell us, or at least that's my interpretation, one of my interpretation of these stories. To begin with my first story, the story with the very minor, concerning the very minor character, I want to take you back, make you imagine a rather cool autumn morning, a few miles down the road, place called Kurukshetra, which all of you know and certainly heard of. It was not what it is today. A huge meadow with hundreds of thousands of soldiers arrayed on two sides of that huge meadow. A battle is about to commence, a battle between two sets of cousins, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. The Pandavas feel that they have been deprived of the rightful share of the kingdom by the Kauravas, and that's what the battle is about. As I said, the battle is about to start. The soldiers are ready. The strategic arrangements of the soldiers have all been made. The conch shells are about to be blown. Drums are about to be beaten. When suddenly the eldest brother of the Pandavas, Yudhishthira, as all of you know, descends from his chariot and goes to that middle ground that is separating the two armies. And standing at that middle ground, he shouts out to the Kaurav army saying, if there is anybody there amongst you who believe that we Pandavas are fighting a just war, you are welcome to join us, cross over and join us and fight alongside us rather than against us. It's a startling proclamation, invitation, whatever you want to call it, that is being made just before the beginning of a rather devastating battle. And only one solitary figure, not even from the front ranks of the Kaurava army, gets off his chariot and walks across. Yudhishthira embraces him and says, you are like our brother. You are most welcome to fight alongside us against the Kauravas. Who is this solitary man? His name is Yujutsu. And who is he? When the mother of the Kauravas, Gandhari, who blindfolded herself, as we all know, when she heard that her future husband was born blind, when Gandhari was heavily pregnant, she appointed a Shudra maid, I want to underline that, Shudra maid, to look after her blind husband Dhritarashtra. And as was the custom those days, looking after extended far beyond what we mean by looking after. And in the process of looking after Dhritarashtra, this Shudra maid got pregnant. And the offspring of this union between Dhritarashtra and the Shudra maid was Jujutsu. And he is, in a way, the stepbrother of the Kauravas and therefore by extension a cousin of the Pandavas as well. Now this is, before I leave Jujutsu, this is his only major appearance in the great epic. Okay? He is mentioned passingly afterwards that he was in such and such military encounter. He was either won or defeated in this military encounter. Beyond that, he hardly gets some mention in the epic. So this is the principal reason why I am describing him as a minor character, a very minor character. But we will have reasons to come back to him and also note where he gets some mention in the epic which is rather pivotal and important. We leave Jujutsu with his crossover to the Pandava side. The two stories regarding a very important character. We've already mentioned his proper name, Yudhishthira. Both of them are about Yudhishthira. And my first story comes from nearly the end of the third book of the epic, the Vanaparva, the book of forests. It has been a very long day for the Pandavas. They have been walking in the forest and the sun is about to set. The leaves are dappled by the sunlight of the setting sun when Draupadi announces to her 5 husbands that I can't walk anymore. I am desperately, desperately thirsty. So they take shelter under a very large and shady tree, the 6 of them. And Yudhishthira tells Nakula, just climb up on top of this tree, it's a high tree, climb up on top of this tree and see if there is any water body nearabouts from where we can fetch some water for Panchali. Nakula climbs up and comes down to say, yes, indeed, there is a very, very large lake within few minutes of walking from here. And Yudhishthira says, why don't you go and fetch a jug of water for Panchali? Nakula goes, doesn't return. He said only a few minutes walk. He doesn't come back. So Yudhishthira turns to Sahadeva, the twin of Nakula, and says, I don't know what's happened to Nakula. Why don't you go and check what's happened to him? We need that water for Panchali. Sahadeva goes, doesn't come back. So Yudhishthira turns to his great warrior brother Arjuna and says, these 2 guys have gone, they haven't come back, you better go and see what's happened to them and fetch that water. Arjuna goes, doesn't come back. So Yudhishthira, he's always his last resort, the strong man Bhima, turns to Bhima and says, well, now it's your turn to go and check what's happened to our 3 brothers. Bhima goes, Bhima doesn't come back. So Yudhishthira reassures Draupadi and says, "You just wait, now I'll go." And he goes. When he approaches or nears that huge lake, he finds the dead body of his 4 brothers on the banks, dead. But in his mind, the first thing that occurs is Panchali needs water. So he wades into the lake to fill that jug. And as he wades into the lake, from high above a tree, a voice says, "This is my lake. Do not draw any water from this lake without my permission and without having answered my questions. Your brothers defied me. I told them not to draw water from the lake without answering my questions. Your brothers defied me. I have killed them all. So don't do it. I'm warning you." So Yudhishthira turns up, looks up at the tree and says, "I don't know who you are. I can't see you. But if you show yourself and ask me what the questions are, I will certainly try and answer them. And then, with your permission, I'll draw water for my wife." So from the top of the tree, a beast descends. I call it a beast because it's nothing that Yudhishthira had ever said. Looks like nothing that Yudhishthira had ever seen. Huge, one-eyed, one-leg, weird looking. So Yudhishthira says, "My lord, you must be very powerful and very strong to have killed my 4 brothers who are practically indefeatable. So I'm here. What are your questions?" And there follows, we are nearing the end of the Banaparva, a question-answer session between this peculiar creature and Yudhishthira. Roughly 108 questions. Beginning with the very simple ones, almost general knowledge. Which animal, to give an example, which animal sleeps standing? To very profound philosophical questions like, what is amazing? And Yudhishthira gives a remarkable answer to what is amazing. He says, every single moment, a human being is dying somewhere or the other. Yet, human beings aspire for immortality. Death is a certainty, but human beings are aspiring for immortality. Another philosophical question, who is happy? This is being asked of a royal prince, soon to become a king. Who is happy? And the answer Yudhishthira gives is an individual who, having done a full day's work, knowing very well that he is not in debt or dependent on anybody, can return to his home knowing that there is a roof over his head and have a simple meal of rice and vegetables. That person with all these 4 certainties is happy. Mark it, this is a king, a royal prince. He's not saying a golden chariot or a Bentley or a Rolls Royce will make you happy. He is saying these 4 very simple things. So, there are other such philosophical questions. At the end of which, 108, this creature says, My son, I'm very happy with your answers. You have answered the questions satisfactorily. So as a reward, I will not only let you draw water from my lake, but I will raise one of your brothers from the dead. One of your brothers. 4 dead, one of them. Which brother? You tell me which brother you want to be alive. Yudhishthira, without even blinking an eyelid, says, my lord, you are very kind. Please raise Nakula from the dead. It's now the turn of that creature to be surprised. And he says, Nakula? He's not even your blood brother. Your 2 blood brothers, the great warrior Arjuna, the strong man Bhima, are lying dead, and you are saying, raise Nakula? Why? And Yudhishthira says, my lord, I have 2 mothers. My mother Kunti, she has 1 son alive. I am alive. I have another mother, Madri, or I had another mother, Madri, the mother of Nakula and Sahadeva. I want 1 son of my mother, Madri, to be alive. So please raise Nakula from the dead. The creature says, amazing answer. For that answer, I will raise all your 4 brothers. And then the creature morphs and reveals himself as Dharma, Yudhishthira's father, and says, son, I was testing you. Are you really, truly a follower of Dharma? Can you uphold an ethical code? So, you have made me very happy. You're truly my son. So I'll raise all 4 of your brothers. Again, this is a very pivotal moment. We will come back to it when I'm trying to sum up my stories or draw out the lessons of my stories. Fast forward many parvas. Fast forward. We are towards the end of the Mahabharata. Arjuna has just come back from Dwaraka and has brought the news that Dwaraka has been devastated in a fratricidal war similar to a war that the Kauravas and Pandavas had fought on the fields of Kurukshetra. And Krishna is dead. Yudhishthira listens to this and he says, Madhava is dead. With Madhava gone, I have no desire to remain a king. So I don't know about all of you, but I am going to hand over my kingship. Stop, renounce my kingship. And I will go away to the Himalayas. You're free to make your choices. So the 4 brothers and Draupadi says, Maharaj, what are you saying? Wherever you have gone, we have gone with you. Whatever you have done, we have stood by you. So if you are leaving Indraprastha and going to the Himalayas, we will come to you. So one morning, 5 forlorn figures, having renounced all their grandeur of a royal life, walk out of Indraprastha towards the Himalayas. Who knows? Maybe they passed by somewhere here. With them, unnoticed by anybody, came a dog, a mongrel, not a pedigreed dog. And they walked. Somewhere up on the hills, Draupadi fell. And Bhima, astounded that Draupadi was dead, asks his eldest brother, Maharaj, what has she done that she died like this? She has to die like this. So Yudhishthira says, Panchali always said she loved the five of us in the same manner, but in her heart there was only Arjuna. So she has fallen. Little while further down the road, Sahadeva falls. Same question, and Yudhishthira says, Sahadeva was very proud of his wisdom, his learning. So he's paid the price of that. Further down, up on the hills, Nakula falls, same question. And Yudhishthira says, he was very vain about his good looks. He's paying the price of that. Then Arjuna falls. And Bhim, this time even more astounded, says, what has Parth done? And Yudhishthira says, remember, you were present. He promised me that he could conquer the world in one day. He didn't do it. So, this is the consequence. And then finally, few miles up the hill, Bhima falls. And as he is falling, he says, Maharaj, I have never deserted you. I have been the most loyal to you. Why? And Yudhishthira says, you're paying the price of your gluttony. Mark the 5 causes that are being enumerated here. And then there's just Yudhishthira and the dog up on the snowy cliffs of the Himalayas. And as they keep walking, one day suddenly the chariot from heaven descends. In that chariot is the king of heavens, Indra, who descends from the chariot and tells Yudhishthira, Maharaj, come, I brought this chariot for you. You will be the only living human being to go to heaven. People go to heaven after they have died. You will be the living human being to go to heaven. So Yudhishthira steps onto the chariot. The dog also follows Yudhishthira, as he has been doing ever since they left Indraprastha. And Indra said, no, not this dirty animal. He cannot pollute this chariot and heaven. So Yudhishthira says, you are telling me that this dog cannot come with me? So Indra says, yes. So Yudhishthira gets off the chariot and he says, if the dog cannot come, I cannot go to heaven. So Indra, astounded, stunned in fact, say, you are going to sacrifice the prize of going to heaven for a dog? And Yudhishthira says, yes. When every single person dear to me has left me, this dog hasn't left my side. Under snowstorms, rain, thunder, lightning, he has been at my side. We have given each other our bodily warmth. Whatever little food I had, he has shared with me, has never grumbled. How can I desert him? When he never deserted me, he could have gone away. He never deserted me. I can't desert him. Even for the prize of heaven, I cannot desert him. The dog morphs itself. Once again, it is dharma. It says, son, this was your last test, and you have passed it. Now, you can come with me to heaven. Those are my 3 stories. Now I want to draw out certain lessons from these stories. All 3 stories, and I don't want to flog this, it's obvious to you, are stories of great moral courage. To leave an army where on a side that actually represents your home, the court that you were brought up in, jujutsu, to leave that because he believes that the other side, so-called enemy, is fighting a just war, requires moral courage. And how does the Mahabharata, the epic, having kept him as a minor character right through, as I said, how does the Mahabharata recognize this moral courage on the part of a son of a Shudra mate? When Yudhishthira takes the decision, he is going to renounce his kingship. He appoints Yujutsu as the regent. His great-grandson, Parikshit, he's only 12 years old, so he can't be the king. Yujutsu will be the regent till Parikshit is an adult and can be a king. That's how the Mahabharata recognizes Yujutsu as a leader. He is capable of leading a kingdom. I want to underline another point which I have been trying to highlight. At least twice I said the phrase. Leadership has nothing to do to which section of society you were born in. A Shudra maid's son can be a leader because he showed the moral fiber that makes a leader. I can raise any of your brothers. And Yudhishthira chose the son of his second mother. Again, faced with a critical choice, he is making a moral decision. A decision that is imbued with a sense of ethics. And as a reward, of course, all the 4 brothers are raised from the dead. Now I said this is a very pivotal moment. Why? The Vana Parva is coming to an end. 12 years in the forest. They have 1 more year when they have to live in disguise. Virata Parva. And then they know there is this war coming. They have to fight for their kingdom. Now, imagine if Yudhishthira hadn't made this moral choice. He would be alone. He wouldn't have his brothers with him. Would he have been able to take on the Kauravas alone? Hardly a chance. So the narrative moves, the war and the victory of the Pandavas pivots around Yudhishthira making a moral choice, a moral decision. And finally, the moral of the story of the last story is obvious. Not to be lured by anything and not to desert loyalty. Don't forget people or creatures who were with you during critical moments when you were completely alone. That also is the sign of a leader. And the Mahabharata, which is often read only as a story of war, actually leaves us with these moral lessons regarding leadership. And I hope that all of us in this room, whenever we are faced with challenges, decisions, we can take decisions that are based on principles and a code of morality. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions or clarifications. If you have any, please feel free. It is my moral duty to clarify. There are mics, so please put up your hand, take a mic and speak.
Excellent narration as always, but I have always wondered in the great epic of Mahabharata, we do talk about Yudhishthira and his morality. But what happened to his morality when he was sitting and bargaining his wife in gambling? And that has stayed for ages. And that should one particular episode take away all the morality of Yudhishthira. Maybe the times were different, ages were different, values were different, but that one must stay. And if I have to take a choice, it's all morality on one side and that one episode on the other side.
So now, may I answer that, respond to that rather? There's no answer to that question. I was not trying to uphold Yudhishthira as some kind of epitome of morality. Okay, so that question is somewhat misdirected. Maybe you should ask that question to Vyasa. But having said that, jokes apart, if you look at the values of those times, and you yourself mentioned that those were different times, different values. When a king is invited for a game of dice by another king, don't forget, in the Shabha Parva, Yudhishthira is a king. It's because he's a king that his kingdom can be taken away from him in that gambling game. Okay? It is the code of conduct of kingship that makes Yudhishthira accept that invitation to join a gambling game. He doesn't know that Shakuni is going to play with a loaded dice. Okay? And from that follows what you rightly say as one of the most terrible decisions of his life. A decision which actually made Bhima say in open court, "What have you done, Maharaj? You should burn your hands for having bet Draupadi in a gambling game. So the Mahabharata actually has within it a condemnation of Yudhishthira's choice. Not only that, you have just mentioned one. Let me add why I am making the point that Yudhishthira is not some kind of embodiment of morality. Yudhishthira is not God. If he had been God, he would have been without faults. So, on the 13th day of the war, the night of the 12th day of the war, the Pandavas come to the realization that they cannot in any way defeat their guru Dronacharya. So they visit Dronacharya in his tent at the middle of the night. And they say, Gurudev, how will we win this war? You want us to win this war. You have always said that we will win this war. But how can we win this war if we cannot defeat you? And there is no way we can defeat you. And Dronacharya says, yes, there is, so long as I have weapons in my hand, there is no human being who can defeat me. Maybe God can, but no human being can defeat me as long as I have weapons in my hand. So the question then asked is, so what can we do to make you drop your weapons? And Drona says, the only way I'll drop my weapons is if I hear that my son is dead. So they go away. And next morning, Bhima, being Bhima, the most volatile of the five, he goes and kills an elephant which is called Ashwathama, which is the name of Drona's son. And he goes, having killed the elephant, he marches up to Drona's chariot and says, Ashwathama is dead. Drona says, I don't believe that. Bhima says, I'm telling you, I just killed him. So Drona says, I'll only believe Ashwathama is dead if Yudhishthira tells me that Ashwathama is dead. Lowers his voice, you know the story, and he says, it's an elephant. Ashwathama hata iti gaja. Half a lie. Half a lie. And what is the price of that half a lie? The price of that half a lie is Yudhishthira's chariot never touched the ground. It was 5 fingers above the ground all the time. In other words, indicating that he is superior to other human beings. As soon as he uttered that half lie or the half truth, his chariot fell to the ground, made him equal to all human beings. Further, he goes to heaven, as I have just said, with Dharma and Indra, enters paradise, and he finds Draupadi is not there. His brothers are not there. So he says, where are they? What am I doing here? What is the meaning of my being in heaven when they are not there? So Indra says they are in Naraka, hell. So Yudhishthira says, please take me there. I want to be with them, not in isolation in heaven. So he is taken to Naraka. He has a glimpse of hell. And then Indra tells him, remember the few acts of immorality that you committed in your lifetime? For that you have to have a glimpse of hell. Now, having glimpsed hell, you can, with your brothers and your wife, ascend to heaven. So he's paying a price for those acts of immorality. Sir, you had a question. I stopped you. Sorry, I can't hear you. Take the mic, please. Yeah.
हाँ जी सर नमस्कार सर जैसे सर ने बोला कि उन्होंने तो इस लेवल तक चले गए कि अपनी वाइफ को भी दांव पे लगा दिया बट सबसे पहली गलती तो वही थी कि वो एक जुआ खेलने ही बैठ गया गैम्बल करने ही बैठ गए तो मतलब दस कोटी पीरियड्स तो वहाँ जैसे मोरालिटी की बात करें अगर तो आपको पता चले मैं जुआ खेलता हूँ हाउ इज
I think I have kind of addressed the question here. So from 3 stories, we have moved to many stories now. Yes. The mic here, please. And then the lady behind.
Can I just ask you, sir?
No, they can't hear you. So better fix that mic. Yeah.
Good evening and thank you for a very beautiful evening. I want to ask a very simple question. What exactly is the definition of dharma? And also, has it evolved according to the convenience of mankind?
Okay. I was kind of expecting that question. I was expecting that question because in the course of the narrative of the epic, at one point I forget exactly where, Yudhishthira is asked that question, what is dharma? And he gives her, the lack of a better description, a two-tiered answer. One level he says, dharma is a very subtle art. Okay, so that is indicative of there is scope for evolution. That is also indicative that there is no simple black and white definition of dharma. Dharma can often be contextual. And then the second, he says, dharma consists of non-cruelty to all living beings. Remarkable answer. He has just emerged from a Holocaust. This is post the war. I think it's in Shanti Parva or Anushashan Parva. He's just emerged from a Holocaust. It's bloodshed and cruelty that has made possible for him to be a king. And he says, non-cruelty to all living beings is dharma. That's what the epic tells us, what dharma is.
So I had
No, she had. Please go ahead.
yeah. We often talk about role models of leadership for our youngsters, and it's been the practice of naming a figure. But now we see that Yudhishthira is also not the perfect role model, and Lord Ram, as we all know, also displayed feat of clay at a very crucial juncture. So does this mean taking the evolutionary perspective of leadership that the qualities that we want to imbibe for leadership would be more of a patchwork? Certain things in one person, certain traits in one person.
Ma'am, may I just echo Yudhishthira? Leadership is also a subtle art. Yes, no, there was a question there. Somebody raised, yes.
So thank you very much for lovely, what I understand Mahabharata, teaches us dharma is absolute. So my question is that it is circumstantial at the same time in certain situations.
Sorry, I didn't get the last bit.
Is it circumstantial Does dharma, is dharma circumstantial?
Yes, that's
with respect to a specific situation?
that's my reading. That's what I was trying to say, that dharma is a subtle art because dharma is contextual. That's my reading. The Mahabharata is an open text, and that is why it has survived so many years, because different people interpret it, read it differently. And the Mahabharata itself says, in fact, or Vyasa says at one point in the Adi Parva, that this story has been told before and it will be told many times over in the future. So every retelling is also an interpretation or a reinterpretation. So I will just, this is not in the Mahabharata, but derived from the Mahabharata. Some of you may have seen that the great theatre director, British theatre director Peter Brook, made a 8.5 hour long theatre production of the Mahabharata, which was staged in open air in Avignon in France. One of the great theatre productions of all time. There is a film version of it. You can see it on YouTube. Not 8.5 hours. But it's long, it's 3 hours. May not be 8.5 hours. I'm just telling you how it's very relevant to what I just said, and what Vyasa says, that it's been said before, it will be said many times over. This is a variation of that theme. This is how Peter O'Toole opens his Mahabharata. Right corner of the stage sits a man whose head is like an elephant, or a figure, let's not say man, a figure whose head is like an elephant. Most people coming from the Indian tradition know it's Ganesha. And opposite him sits an old man with long hair, matted, and a beard. They are speaking, and we don't know, we can't hear them what they're saying. And onto the stage, from the left of the stage, wanders a small little boy, looking around. And then he spies these two at one corner, talking, whispering to each other. And he approaches them and he says, "What are you doing?" With a child's curiosity. "What are you doing?" And Vyasa says, "We are composing a story." So the little boy says, "Story? What story? Whose story?" As children ask. And Vyasa replies, or the figure that is supposed to represent Vyasa replies, "It's my story. It's his story," pointing to Ganesha. "It's my story. It's his story. It's your story," pointing to the little boy. So it's a story of the future as well. You will also tell it in your own time. I'll come back to you, there's a question here. I saw his hand first. Maybe you raised yours first.
My question is,
No, there's a mic. Others have to hear you, not just me.
my question is more Jujutsu-centric.
More Yudhishthir.
Jujutsu-centric.
We already have such a question, more Yudhishthir-centric. Yes, but I'm willing to take another one.
No, Jujutsu-centric.
Oh, Jujutsu-centric. Okay, yeah.
He's fighting for an army. Deserts his army and joins the other side. There's a name for that. How do we justify that? And he's rewarded at the end.
We justify it because he's joined the side that is fighting a just war.
That is his perspective, but he's also fighting an army. Today, all wars which happen, somebody is right, somebody is wrong. It's not the soldier's job to decide. He has to follow orders. That is the discipline of the army.
Maybe that's the stereotype that the Mahabharata is challenging. The mic there, please. I hope I didn't give a lawyer's answer. I know. Yes.
He's the best lawyer of India.
Indian novel, Shashi Tharoor has drawn.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sir, in the great Indian novel, the Shashi Tharoor has drawn back with Mahabharata and the Indian politics at independence. So, if you have to draw parallel with today's geopolitics versus Mahabharata, we'd love to hear from you.
I wouldn't. Maybe Shashi Tharoor can answer that question. And I haven't read that book. I hardly ever read what Shashi Tharoor writes, though he is a very old friend of mine. The lady there, you have a question, the gentleman in pink? Yes, after that.
Thank you, Professor, for such a wonderful evening. Enjoyed every bit of it, the narration and the question answers, every bit. I just want to make a comment that the more you read Mahabharata, the more you find that there are so many layers to it. And those keep unfolding every time you read. One time is not enough, and one time narration is also not enough, so we would like to hear you more often on the same theme, talking about similar themes, similar issues. Thank you so much.
I couldn't agree with you more. I try and read maybe not the entire Mahabharata, but certainly bits of the Mahabharata, large chunks of the Mahabharata every year. And I actually teach it. So I have to read it. Now there was a question here and I'll come back to you.
Yes, good evening. These ethics have all along been there for ages, but all of us that word is always been dependent on management theories like leadership. I think the crux of entire system being leadership, which we are discussing, have been dependent on all the management institute management theory of the West. She used the word unfolding as one of the. So all this is unfolding now. So what brings us to this change? We are expecting things from so many educated people. So what brings this change?
My answer is, or what I can only speak for myself. Why am I speaking of the Mahabharata now? My answer is, I think, all of us who are thinking Indians need to think very deeply about morality and dharma. That is why I am speaking to you about the Mahabharata and not about something else. Yes.
Hello, Professor. So, you were talking about the side of dharma, and you also mentioned dharma is a subtle art. But if you look at as
I didn't.
Okay.
Don't put Yudhishthira's words into my mouth.
Okay. So, but as a normal human being, as a vulnerable human being, if you look at Mahabharata, even the Pandavas, including Krishna, did so many things which were disturbing and deceitful, right? So how can that be called dharma? Like killing of Duryodhana?
So there is the dilemma. Divinity, which is Krishna, is often engaging in actions that are cunning and apparently seem adharmic. So there you are, the Mahabharata is pushing you towards many paradoxes and challenging you to form your own opinion. I'll give you just one example, another story. Okay? Even before the 5 Pandavas have married Draupadi, one of them had a marriage. Bhima married Hidimba, who was a Rakshas. And out of that marriage was born Ghatatkacha, who is a Rakshas, Ashura. Mind you, what does Ashura actually mean? Ashura is the opposite of Surya, those who are without light, creatures of darkness. He is born full blown, okay? No childhood, nothing. He emerges from his mother's womb full blown, and he tells Kunti, his father Bhim, and his other uncles that I'm going, but whenever you need me, just think of me and I'll be there. So that 12th night I was talking about of the war, well, actually it's the 11th night of the war, is the only day in the entire battle of Kurukshetra, 18 days, where there is a night battle. Okay? And at the center of that night battle, as you can imagine, is this Ashura, creature of darkness. And he is beating the hell out of the Kauravas. Nobody can stop him. Completely desperate, with defeat staring at him in the face, Duryodhana goes to Karna and says, you know, today is probably our last day. Who is going to stop this? And only you can stop him. I know Indra gave you a special arrow which cannot be stopped. You better release that arrow and kill this creature. So Karna says, I can't do that. That arrow is kept for my final battle with Arjuna. So Duryodhana says, there may not be any battle with Arjuna if this man, this creature is not stopped, this Ashura is not stopped, so you better use it. So Karna uses it. Bharatkach falls, dies. The Pandava camp is in mourning. Why are they mourning? Because actually their eldest son is dead. He's the firstborn of the next generation, is the firstborn. Dead. They're all weeping, crying, moping around, as people do when they mourn. Only one person is dancing. That's Krishna. This is going to surprise you. He's dancing with joy. And Yudhishthira says, Madhav, have you gone mad? We have lost a son. Please think about that. We have lost a son and you are dancing with joy. Krishna says, you don't understand. You are so short-sighted that you don't understand. Today we have won the Kurukshetra war. So Yudhishthira says, how so? How we won the Kurukshetra war? He says, what was standing in the way of our victory? That arrow that Karna had. As long as he had that arrow, Arjuna wouldn't have been able to defeat Karna. Now that weapon is gone. So we have won the war. Look at the different perspective between the human being and the divine. You would say that divinity is without consideration, divinity is without sorrow, but divinity is seeing it in a completely different light altogether. So too many stories. I'll call a halt to it. Thank you so much for being such a patient and affectionate audience.